Welcome to the Maine Real Estate Roundtable podcast. I'm Bobby Grenier, your trusted guide to navigating the world of real estate in Maine. Get ready to debunk mortgage myths, unravel real estate mysteries, and learn tips to avoid costly mistakes. Whether you're an industry pro, an overwhelmed buyer, confused seller, or simply curious about life in Maine, this is the podcast for you. Hey there, welcome back to another episode of the Maine Real Estate Roundtable podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Grenier, and today I'm so excited because we have a truly inspiring guest joining us. Get ready to be motivated and enlightened as we dive into this incredible journey with Jen Cammack. So Jen is not just any real estate agent, and it takes only a moment spent with her to know that she is a powerhouse. She successfully navigated the challenging path to become a dual state licensed agent, practicing in both Maine and Florida. And over the last year, she has demonstrated remarkable dedication and determination, and today she's here to share her journey with us. So in this episode, Jen will reveal the inspiration behind her ambitious career move, transitioning from the healthcare sector to this crazy world of real estate. Now she is a proud agent at eXp Realty and the founder of the Happy Place team. But that's not all. Jen will also share with us invaluable strategies on mindset, manifestation, and determination. She'll guide us on how to achieve not only the goal of becoming a dual state licensed agent, but also inspire us to chase after those dreams that we often think are unattainable. Jen has brilliantly married her desire for a snowbird lifestyle with expanding her career into a snowbird career in real estate. She's going to discuss how technology and teamwork have made this completely doable, not just for a real estate career, but for many other industries as well. So if you've ever had a dream that seemed out of reach, this episode is for you. So wait no more. Let's welcome the incredible Jen Cammack to the Maine Real Estate Roundtable podcast. Good morning, Jen. Welcome.
Good morning.
I am so happy that you had the time to talk with us this morning. And I'm really super excited about this topic of having agents that are going to being licensed in 2 states. So I really wanted to speak with you about that. But before we get into it, can you take a minute just to tell us all about yourself and how you got into the career of real estate?
Oh gosh, for sure. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being on. I came into real estate about 8 years ago after a long career as an occupational therapist. I was sort of on a trajectory to keep going, and I was going into my PhD to teach, and really just pushed pause and decided I really wanted to do something I had always wanted to do that would be really fun. So I chose real estate, and no regrets. It's been amazing. Um, I spent my first year sort of just adjusting to the industry and how different it was to be. I worked in healthcare and education. You know, I was working in the nonprofit sector for so long, and then to transition into an industry that's really opposite of that was, my first year was quite an adjustment. But I sort of figured things out pretty quickly, and I just dove in. I went within my first year, I gave up my consulting side hustle, and I just dove in full time. And then within a couple of years, I was producing a lot, successful, and realizing I was really busy. I needed to sort of figure out, am I going to hire an assistant? Am I going to build a team? So I decided to build a team. We now have 7 of us on that team. And that really, I think, just was an amazing experience because I've always loved to mentor and teach and watch people grow. So to mentor brand new agents feeling really insecure and then watch them just become successful has been so rewarding. I've really loved that. And so my expansion into going into 2 states kind of came along, and the importance of teaming is even bigger because you obviously can't be in 2 places at once. But, you know, through the years with COVID, we realized the importance of a team anyway, because we were so busy. Buyers had to get into properties, 5 minutes ago to make an offer. So having that help and being able to support each other to get our clients to where they needed to be when they needed to be there was really crucial. So it's been an interesting journey. My husband and I started kind of manifesting our dream to Snowbird probably about 5 or 6 years ago. So I was into real estate a few years, but my parents purchased a home in Port Charlotte, Florida. So we started going there and visiting pretty frequently and really just fell in love with the area. and the sunshine. As we have aged, we're in our 50s, and we both really were sort of experiencing the seasonal depression that happens when things are dark at 4 o'clock in Maine in the middle of November. And really just started dreaming about it, and set a goal that we would eventually own a home in Florida, and that I would be able to practice in both states if I continued to grow my team. And so here we are, fast forward 5 years later, and that's happening, and it's been amazing. We purchased our home a year ago, so I just got licensed in Florida this past January, and spent my first winter practicing there and helping people and learning sort of the differences and navigating all that. And but at the same time also having some playtime. We love to be on the ocean, and he loves fishing, so it's been a personal and professional endeavor. Really, it's been wonderful.
I think it really has to be, to make
Hmm.
such a transition. But before we get into that, I just want to say a couple things. First, I didn't realize you came from healthcare. I'm learning so much about the people that I speak with on this podcast that I've known for years. So that is super cool. And a lot of agents have come from a healthcare background. So that's really interesting. And I want to tell you that I love your team. I was talking with a team member on the podcast that is an episode coming out, Chrissy, and I said, what a brilliant idea to name your team the Happy Place team. Because even, I can be having a stressful day at the office, and for whatever reason, that word happy, the Happy Place team comes up, and I'm just kind of smiling, and I'm picturing all of your team members, and, it's just really a brilliant, in my opinion, marketing and just mindset. So I think it really speaks to everybody that's on your team. And I think that you going for it as far as making your dream and your husband's dream come true to what you're doing is incredible. So definitely hats off to you, because it probably took a lot of courage to do that.
Totally. And we're still on the learning curve. Florida is a beast that I'm going to be learning about for a while. But it's been so much fun, and to even just in a few months realize, we've owned our home a year. That year flew by, and we're making it happen. I mean, it is scary. Change is scary. Human beings like things that are familiar, and but that's one thing I think that's probably my greatest strength, is that I don't let fear or anxiety hold me back. I like to face it right in the face and move it out of the way and move right through it. So, and that's what I try to support my team in doing too. And my philosophy of leadership with the Happy Place team, because when I became really busy and I started watching people in the industry and studying the ones that I thought were really successful and on how to get good at this, I realized that a lot of teams sort of bring in assistance and help, and they have certain roles, but then when they figure out what to do and how to run their own business, they sort of on to the next thing. And I really wanted to be my own boss, and I wanted to own it. And when I started my team, I wanted them to have that experience too. So my philosophy in leadership is a good leader puts themselves out of business. So I have really mentored them to run their business completely as buyer agents, seller agents, the management, the marketing. They don't necessarily need me, so we stay together because we're better together, and we support each other, and we collaborate, and we help each other. But it's really about us all being our own rock stars and helping each other meet our goals, holding each other accountable. So I think that's why we stick together, and we kind of just keep rolling forward. So there's actually two of my other teammates that are interested in doing Florida as well. So the sunshine reels us in. It does. So I'm looking forward to helping them do the same thing that I'm doing. So I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely can see that in the way you run your company, the way you work with your, I can't even say run your team. You work with your team, and clearly you are fearless in doing this, because ideally it sounds, oh, I'm going to work in Maine, I'm going to work in Florida, I'll snowbird, but they're really, I'm sure in real estate, are two different worlds.
Hmm. Lots of moving parts for sure. But you know what it's taught me the most? Because, I've always been a leader, and I've always been kind of a, go-getter, but with that often comes the need to control everything, right? So I've had to let it go. That's been one of the best lessons for me, is to really trust in other people that they can do things just as good as I can. And so that has been very freeing in a lot of ways, that I can tell my clients, it's okay that I'm in Florida. I have a whole team that's going to take just as good a care of you as I am. And with technology, I mean, I was joining their showings on Zoom. I can do almost everything, technologically online, and meet with them, FaceTime or Zoom. So really it's the actual in person at the property, the showings, an open house, things like that are need for in person. So I just have people help, and I join through technology, and I feel like I'm there. I'm still connected to them. It's worked. It's really great. I mean, I'm so grateful that I can do it. So, and
Uh,
it'll just keep getting better.
It will. And I think that your philosophy and the way that your team works, it isn't, I'm covering for Jen. It's, we're doing
Mm-mm.
this as a team, because obviously your clients want to feel like, they have you and they're important to you. But boy, technology has really changed the game, hasn't it? And I think
Oh my
that,
gosh. Mm-hmm.
do you feel like COVID boosted that?
Totally. Oh my gosh. Yes. I was during the COVID years, I was actually on the Greater Bangor Association of Realtors, and sort of problem solving and facilitating how, as an industry, we do this. And I just remember how intense that all was, but what a transition, culturally and in our industry, as far as people realizing, like, we can pretty much be mobile and do anything anywhere. It was life changing, really. It had its challenges. I think we had to deal with the isolation, but we also learned that there's a lot of different ways to do things, and it really does create freedom. So, and that, I feel like that's done that for me for sure.
Well, it creates freedom not just for the agent, but also for the clients.
Hmm.
Back in the day, they would have to drive to Maine or fly to Maine and, see the property or just trust pictures. But now, with all of the technology that's available to us, really, they can get a great feel of what the property
Hmm.
is through video, which is really, really
Absolutely.
cool.
Well, it elevated us as an industry because prior to that, we didn't see nearly as much as virtual tours and floor plans. You know, I had so many clients that relocated to Maine during those years, and literally could put them in a property technologically and have them feel like they were walking right through it. So that's kind of carried over, and I think really has made us much better. And the Florida and Maine connection is totally the same, because I have clients in Maine that are looking to Snowbird, but they can't be there all the time. So I'm doing virtual showings with them, navigating the things in Florida that are very different than Maine. So, they know that I've been through the process, that I understand what they deal with as Mainers and how that looks. Now we have 3-hour flights from Bangor to St. Pete, Clearwater area, and to Punta Gorda, which is really close to my house. I mean, I spend more than 3 hours in the car usually on a day doing real estate. So for me to be able, if I have a need up here while I'm in Florida for the winter, I simply hop on a plane. I'm here in 3 hours. So that makes things so much easier too, and it's the west coast of Florida, which is where I'm most passionate about. Feels like you're on a Caribbean island, but you're a 3-hour flight from my kids and from my clients. So it's been amazing.
It really is. My youngest daughter moved to Florida 3 years ago, and
Hmm.
I miss her like crazy. But the fact that we can FaceTime, we can text, it's not as bad. I mean, it's not the same as having her there, but I'm so thankful for it. Imagine just phone calls. I'd never hear from her if it was
I
just a phone call.
exactly. My Christmas presents now are plane tickets to Florida to visit me. So I don't usually go more than a month from seeing my kids. So between me coming kind of back and them coming down a couple of times, it just works. It's been great.
So, talking about the technology piece of it, so you have a great client base in Maine.
Hmm.
So there's that trust. Did you find it difficult to build the client base in Florida and have the trust that's really needed to know that, okay, you know, Jen's in Maine, but I have full trust that she's going to take care of me down in Florida.
Mhm. Well, yes, I think the biggest piece of that is to have help and collaboration. So I have another agent that I work with in Florida, and I can refer clients to if that seems like a better fit. She will do virtuals with me as well, just like when I was in Florida doing virtuals for Maine clients. So that's been the key, really, is it's all about relationships and the people that you connect with that will support you, and I in turn support them for sure. And it's a two-way street that just works out. And it's about our clients. They come first. We have to meet their needs. And for as busy as we are right now in the market moving as fast as it does, to do that as an individual person is nearly impossible. So to have that help and collaboration, I mean, it means everything. And it's so far so good. I mean, it's been great. I'm working on kind of pushing forward toward my next goals, which are a full luxury. I just got luxury certified last year through my agency. So, my passion in real estate, my biggest passion is waterfronts. My husband and I have built two waterfronts in Maine. We own on a canal in Florida that allows us to boat out into the Gulf. And that's what I love to do the most. And that's what so many of my friends love to do. And people that are my age that are wanting to snowbird, they're wanting to know about how do you make this happen? I'm navigating all these different things associated with waterfronts that are different than here, and really wanting to get into that luxury market and that to be my level of expertise to help people do what we're doing. So it's been fun.
That's really cool. Do you find that your place in life, your age, your experience, that's helping you connect with that particular population of people that are wanting to transition into snowbirding?
Yes, for sure. I think one of the things in our generation that a lot of us struggle with is that we were raised to be worker bees, so this has been one of my personal goals in making this happen is that, we're not getting any younger. Life is really short. And many of us have friends that are battling cancer, that have had heart attacks. We're at that phase. And I just don't want to be a workaholic anymore. I've worked really, really hard my whole life. I also don't want to retire. I love to work, but the work-life balance is something I've struggled with, especially since coming into real estate. I mean, this is a 24/7 hustle. If you're going to be successful full-time top producer, which was all of my goals, I wanted to do all those things, which I did, but that takes, often 70 or 80 hours of work a week to get there. And I think that comes with a cost. And, having your health and having some time to enjoy is just as important as working. So I find that a lot of people in my generation that are sort of attracted to me to help them, we share that in common. And I'm supportive of them to say, you know what, it's okay to back off a little bit. It's okay for time to play, and I think that that's super important. I'm very passionate about that, and working all the time to get better at it.
I absolutely love that because it is so true, that I just had my 57th birthday and that's it. And when you start to dream about, well, maybe this is something I could do or a change I could make in my life, it instantly goes to, well, what are you talking about? You have a great 9 to 5 and why
Mhm.
why would you take that risk? So it's really inspirational. And I think that aren't 50s great though?
Oh
Everyone.
gosh, the best. The best. It's such a time to reflect, when your kids are moving on to their next phase and so successful and happy, like we celebrate that every day. It's just such a gift. I said to my husband the other day, I just can't get over these kids and how proud I am of them. Like if we do nothing else in life, we did that. We helped them. We brought up some great human beings. You got to celebrate that. You got to stop and celebrate that, And the 50s are now we just have to wait for grandchildren, I guess. And then that's the next big thing. And that's something that's really important too. Like I don't want to be working 70 hours a week when my grandkids come. I really want to enjoy that. So, it's good stuff.
It is. And I think that when you find the place where you can find the boundaries, the work-life balance, the work-lifestyle balance, which is really what we're talking about with what you've done with your Maine, Florida connection. It's awesome. I'm really happy for you, Jen.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And you know what? I'm going to be happy for everybody else that can do it with me.
I'd love it. I would love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a client right now who is a Maine client who, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many hours a week he works. He owns multiple businesses, and I'm helping him try to find his Florida home. And he won't be ready to snowbird for a while. He still has young kids, but he wants to start investing in the short-term rental market, which is huge down there, and going for more frequent vacations and slowly over time increasing some time there as his kids get older. So one of the things I think that is so important, we talk a lot about manifesting these days, but it truly is what it is. That I started to see this place for myself and my husband 5 years ago. Doesn't happen overnight, but I just kept seeing it, and I kept seeing it, and I kept seeing it. In 2022, my parents' home, they lost their home to Hurricane Ian. And that triggered a pretty emotional journey for all of us. We all were very attached to that place and had spent some great time and wonderful memories there. And that really, I think, for us, kicked it into gear. We bought our house probably about 5 months later. So sometimes it's those tragic things that happen that make us push forward. And that was huge for us, and so I see other people that are struggling with things in their life, and they just want something else, and it can happen. You can make it happen.
What advice do you have for someone that maybe is 2, 3, 5 years out from being able to snowbird? Is there any type of basic roadmap that you can suggest for them?
Well, our team every year we map out 1, 2, 5, and 10-year goals. I think that's the place to start. One of the hardest questions I've found when trying to mentor or lead someone is to ask them, what do you want? That's always where I start. And I think because the barrier is fear and people think they can't have what they want. But if you map out a plan and measurable goals and you say, okay, where are we now? What's it going to take to get, just say, what's it going to take to get to the 5 year? Okay, what can we do for the next year? And then we'll talk about what we do to get to the next year after that. And then 2 years. And then before you know it, 5 years have flown by. And the other advice I would have, and I just experienced this, don't be afraid to let your plan change based on what your heart tells you to do. I mean, my 5 year plan was just to buy an investment property. When I originally bought my house, I'm like, okay, we're going to Airbnb it. We'll come down for a month. We'll be here in January, go back home. Maybe we'll come back down for April, but I need the house to make money to pay for itself. And I mean, now I'm going for 6 months next year. Like we just fell so in love with being there. And we just said, we can do this. We can make this happen. Our plans changed, so it's okay. It's okay for them to change, and I think you just have to really listen to your heart. And that's what this past winter was for us. It was like, I don't I don't want to go home for 2 months and come back. I want to stay. So that's what we'll do next year. And we're positioning ourselves and making plans through this summer and this fall to be able to make that happen. And I'll plan more frequent trips home if I'm gone for longer stretches. So, it's very doable. Don't be afraid, go for it. That's my best advice.
It does seem like one of the avenues to make this happen is to find a property before you're ready to make the move or the partial snowbird move, and then make some money from that property. What are the
Mhm.
challenges with doing that?
Oh boy. Well, this will get into the Florida challenges in general. I mean, I have found you're going to pay the price for paradise, as I say, because Airbnbs, there's been a lot that's happened since Hurricane Ian with Florida. Insurances are astronomical. So, home insurance has gone up. A lot of home insurance companies have pulled out. Flood insurance requirements are really through the roof. That's all gone up. So, and property taxes in certain areas, especially near waterfronts, which is where I am. I mean, you can be easily just in insurances. And then if you add liability insurance to be able to Airbnb and short-term rental and all that, you can be close to 20,000 a year in insurances and taxes. And that's something that people are really unprepared for. And so finding ways for that property to make a little bit of money, like we still rent ours out in the summer. Most people think it won't rent, but there's a lot of Floridians that live inland that vacation on the coast. So we've been able to still take advantage of that through the summertime when we're here. And we have our property in Maine that we rented out to a nurse while we were gone. So having some of those investments can really help. There's other challenges in Florida, and I'm learning so many things. Like my client I'm helping that wants to boat and fish and be on the water. So the whole canals are an issue. Like, how deep are they? Do you have bridges to go under? Can you have a sailboat? How high can your boat be? Do you have to go through a lock? Like, most people in Maine don't know what a lock is. So we have a lock in our community. And so just that kind of education, elevation levels. So he was looking in two different areas. Well, then he started to say to me, well, this area in Florida has all this stuff online about sinkholes. And I started to do some research. I'm like, well, that area is only 2 feet above sea level. This other area is 6 feet above sea level. That's huge when you're talking about flooding and hurricanes. So things like that have been, my learning curve has just been on fire since I've been there. So it's interesting.
Yeah, Maine and Florida are both very diverse. Yes, they're both coastal states, but the
Hmm.
coast of Maine and, either the west or the east coast of Florida, completely different animals.
Completely. And it's funny how well they complement each other because our off season is their in season, their off season is our in season. So, and it's like when we were getting ready to come home this spring, I said to my husband, I'm like, I just can't wait to see pine trees and mountains. Florida's flat. I love the palm trees. I love the sand, but that's pretty much what you get. I love road biking there. No hills. It's great. But coming back home and just, seeing Mount Katahdin and all of just walking through the woods and smelling the pine, you learn to appreciate that more when you're away from it for a while. So it's kind of nice, and then this fall when the clock's set back and it's dark at 4 and the freezing rain starts and I'll be so ready to go see the sun and the sand again. And it's the best of both worlds. It's amazing.
We talked a lot about the importance of teams, and you have a very strong team in Maine, a very strong network. Was it difficult in Florida to find your people and build a new network?
Yes, that has been challenging. I think the nature of the industry down there is a little bit different. It's very, very competitive. I think with the changes coming up in our industry, though, Maine's actually given me a bit of a boost because we're one of the 12 states that require buyer broker agreements. Florida is a state that has not used buyer broker agreements. So the industry shift that's coming up this summer is much more substantial for them, if that's the right word. I mean, we've been on our team, we've been doing things for years that now people are starting to do with buyer broker representation. And so I feel like I was a little bit ahead of the curve there, which was nice. But really networking and making connections and finding other agents that are like-minded has been a little bit more challenging. So I think I just have to keep navigating and learning that. But the few that I have made have been amazing. And that's enough for right now. So it'll just continue to grow and build. And, I believe in the laws of attraction, and what you kind of put out there, you bring back. And so I think it's just a matter of continuing to do that on a regular basis.
Some of the podcasts that I've had and people I've talked with, we end up talking about our central Maine tight knit real estate community with real estate agents and lenders and title companies and all of that. Um, and it really even varies from central Maine to northern Maine to southern Maine.
Hmm.
So I can only imagine the culture difference when you get into such a busy state like Florida, highly
Hmm.
competitive.
Hmm. Very much so. Yeah, I think you feel like a fish out of water, for lack of a better word, but I think that you don't necessarily, the beauty of being in two states is that you don't necessarily have to be going full throttle in both places, so I've been much more slowly building in Florida and focused on, I think, my bigger goals rather than being super busy and fast and furious. I want to foster, the concierge level of services involved in luxury, and doing more of that and building that. And this summer I'm going to be building a website and my online presence to be even more than what it is. And I think that will also help boost. And I really want to bring quality, not quantity. That's always been my motto. And with quality comes quantity. It's going to happen regardless. So that's where our team is usually focused, and in where we want to go, in our ethics, in our practice. I have one very simple rule. I take care of all my clients the way I would myself or my parents or my brother or my own family. And that's the heart of success to me. So when you get to the point where you're a few years in and most of my business is all repeat and referral business. And you kind of have to be like that in Maine. Maine is very, we're spread out. We don't have these really congested populated areas like they do in larger cities, or the Tampa or Fort Myers, places like that in Florida. So, I bringing that ethic to Florida, I feel like will help build success no matter what. It's funny, my dad goes into Home Depot. He's almost 80 years old. They find out in Florida that he's from Maine and they're like, "Do you want a job? We love all you New Englanders. You work so hard, you show up, you're loyal, you're honest." I said, "Well, that's good to know. That's our reputation. That's going to be helpful."
I've heard that as well, which, yes, that's definitely a nice thing to carry around with us from
Hmm.
Maine. So if you have an agent, you've probably had people ask you about this, but an agent that is maybe dreaming about or toying with the idea of doing, not necessarily Florida, but any dual state licensing, what would you say to them?
I would say go for it. Go for it. What I've learned, I joined a brokerage that's a cloud brokerage less than a year ago. And the mindset that I've learned, it really has opened my eyes to a lot of different ways of doing business. We're in every state, 24 countries. There are agents that are fostering business with other people in countries they don't even live in. I mean, this is so doable in the world we live in right now. It really is. And one of if I had I can't say enough about Maine and where we come from and what our values are. But one of our downfalls, maybe, if we had to admit that, is that we get a little stuck sometimes in thinking this is the only way to live, or the only place I can be, or the only thing I can do. And this is what I've done my whole life, and I can't do anything else. I would encourage people to pull themselves out of that mindset and open your mind up and look around at the world around us. There are so many opportunities, there's so many people to meet, there's great things going on. And if you become clear in your goals and you start to envision yourself being happy doing what you want to do, you can make it happen. It takes hard work, persistence, sometimes tenacity and stubbornness, but those things can move you forward and bring you to where you want to be.
That's very, very inspirational, because as you're talking about the Maine people, I'm a native Mainer and my hands going up, because that is me. I mean, I've lived in the same house for almost 30 years. I was talking to my husband the other day and I'm like, I've been here almost 30 years. And, the minute he talks about maybe selling or building or doing something different, it's like, oh, this is this is where I'm going to be. But again, getting back to being in your 50s, I do sort of yearn for that. It's like, what else is there out there?
Hmm.
So being able to do it in two states, be it, Maine and Florida, we have one of our agent friends that has a place in California and comes back and forth. So I think you're definitely an inspiration for myself and other people that, it doesn't have to be in real estate, that really just kind of want to go for something that they've thought about and dreamed about. And for me, I can talk myself out of something as fast as I talk myself into it.
Hmm.
So letting go and letting this stage in our life, that's really cool. Really, really inspirational, Jen.
Oh, I hope so. I want people to feel the happiness I felt in the last year. And I think I put that off for a while, just like everybody else. I'm a Mainer at heart. I'm just exactly what you just described too. I thought I had such, you know, I was a big deal going out of state to college to Massachusetts. That, I spent a few years there and then I came right back and raised my kids and wanted my parents to be a part of my kids' upbringing. And to me, there was no other place in the world like Maine, and that's where I was going to be. And I still feel that way, which is why I'll come back here every summer and, spend 6 months out of the year here. But I've also learned that there's a great big world out there and there's a lot of things we can experience. My husband was in the military for years, so he's kind of seen the world. I haven't. I have not traveled much internationally. And, some of my goals, I know I'll never retire, but I will slow down a lot, when I get much older and I really want to travel. And, it's exciting to think about. It's exciting to think about we can have jobs that are remote and still bring in income and support ourselves, but also enjoy more of the world. It's an amazing time to be able to do that. My parents didn't have that opportunity. They didn't have the technology and being able to work remote. There was no such thing as that several years ago. So I think we should take advantage of it and live it.
This has been, I've just like smiled this whole interview because, you're Jen and it's the Happy Place team. And I'm sure everyone in Florida is thrilled that you brought your happy down to them.
Absolutely. It's funny. I had a buyer that just found me online. It wasn't a connection or a referral or anything. They just found me online, needed an agent, called me to interview me. And I think put through like 20 questions or something. And at the end, he said, "Oh, you passed with flying colors. You're great. We definitely want to work with you." And I said, "Wonderful." And then he said, "And I just have one more question. How did you come up with your name? It really jumped out at me, Happy Place Team." And I said, "Well, we're all about finding people their happy place. That's where it came from." And I said, and back to my philosophy, when I built my team, a lot of real estate teams are the agent's name. I didn't want to be Jen Cammack and Company or whatever. I didn't, my philosophy is we're a team. It's about the team and it's about having a name that stands for what you believe in. And I think in real estate, we are helping people through some of their biggest transitions. And it's emotional, but they're going toward a goal that's going to make them happy. And that means they need a happy place. And so, that's kind of where it all came from. And it's funny when we've had different conversations on the team and I've said, when we relook at branding and do we still really like our name? And all of us are always like, "Oh, we're never giving up that name. That name is ours and we're keeping it forever." I'm like, okay. So it's worked.
It's like I said, it's absolutely brilliant because the marketing, the message it gets across and it just fits who you all are. And I can say that sincerely because I know each and every one of you and enjoy working with each and every one of you.
Oh, thank you. We enjoy you and appreciate you very much. We always love seeing you walk through the door. It's great.
I want to send out a huge thank you to Jen Cammack for coming on the podcast today. I hope you all found this conversation as inspirational and as enlightening as I did. And I think it's time for us all to not only think outside the box, but to step outside the box. If you want to learn more about Jen, head over to the MaineRealEstateRoundtable.com website and check out the show notes page. This has been the Maine Real Estate Roundtable podcast with Bobby Grenier. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion and will share this episode with a friend. And don't forget to leave a review and follow the podcast so you don't miss new episodes. The content of this podcast is for informational purposes and not intended as legal advice or representation by myself or any of the guests on the podcast. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep it real.